Hey guys, and welcome back to day 3 of SPOOKY7, which is the Halloween series that I started on this channel. I don't really have much to say at the beginning of this one, so let's get right into it. Christopher Case was 35 years old and grew up in Richmond, Virginia. He was a small-time radio DJ and was now living in Seattle. Christopher moved to Seattle in Washington State when he was in his 30s to start a new job as a music executive. He was described as being extremely intelligent and was really into health, and although he had a lot of friends in both Seattle and Richmond, he preferred to stay in and listen to music rather than going out to bars and socializing with friends. At this new job, Christopher would be creating music for waiting rooms and elevators worldwide. And because of this job, he traveled a lot, and on April 11th, 1991, his job brought him to San Francisco. While on this trip, Christopher met an older woman who he had a lot of similar interests with. One of these interests was music of the ancient worlds. This casual business friendship quickly turned when this woman started to hint at Christopher that she wanted more than a casual friendship and was actually hinting that she wanted a romantic relationship. Because this woman was being so pushy, it made Chris extremely uncomfortable. She was not only about 20 years older than him, but she wouldn't let up with her sexual advances. When Chris finally turned this woman down, she became very angry. She told Christopher that she was a witch and she put a curse on him and he would be dead by the end of the week. Of course, at this time, Christopher just thought that this woman was a lunatic. He was never really into religion and had no real interest in the supernatural, so what this woman was saying didn't bother him at all. And the next day, he packed up all of his stuff and traveled back to Seattle completely unfazed by what this woman had said. When Christopher had gotten home, he had called his friend Sammy, who still lived in Richmond, and the two had some laughs about what this woman had said to Christopher. And after a couple days, Christopher had seemingly completely forgot about what this woman had said and the whole entire situation. On April 14th, Sammy received a strange phone call from Chris. He told her that he hadn't slept at all the previous night because he was hearing strange whispering voices coming from inside of his apartment, but he couldn't locate exactly where they were coming from. He also said that all night he could see shadows moving around his apartment and felt as if he was being watched. On the 16th, Sammy had received a similar phone call from Chris, but this time he said he had a strange sleep paralysis episode. He said that he felt as if he was paralyzed, but somebody was attacking him, and whatever it was that was attacking him lifted him violently up off of his bed and then slammed him back into it. After this attack, Christopher had tiny cuts on all 10 of his fingers and his bedsheets were covered in blood. The following day, Christopher decided to visit a religious bookstore called Evangel Incorporated. The store owner said that the first thing that Christopher did upon entering the store was walk over and pick up a handful of crucifixes. Now, the owner of the store thought this was odd, so he approached Chris and asked what they were for. Chris told the shop owner that he was being attacked by a paranormal entity and he had to learn how to defend himself. So the shop owner recommended some books to Christopher that would help him kind of deflect whatever demonic presence was attacking him, but it also helped reverse witchcraft. At this point, Christopher seemed to really be losing it. He hadn't slept in days and completely stopped showing up to work. He'd even called more friends than just Sammy, and they said that he genuinely sounded absolutely terrified in these phone calls. The events that occurred that affected Christopher on the night of April 16 are unknown, but they were so horrifying that on the early morning hours of April 17th, Christopher had actually completely abandoned his apartment and checked into a hotel. Because Chris had left his apartment and didn't have a cell phone, Sammy had no way of contacting him because she lived on the other side of the country. So very worried about her friend, she called the police and asked them to do a welfare check. But of course, when the police arrived at Christopher's apartment, all the doors were locked and Christopher wasn't there. Later that day, Christopher did revisit the religious bookshop, and the owner of the shop said that Christopher was in an absolutely awful state. And Chris again asked the owner of the shop for help with defending himself against these beings, and the owner did try to give him enough tips to help him get through this. Shortly after this, Christopher also visited a Catholic church to talk to a priest. Later that evening, Sammy came home to find that she had a voicemail message left on her phone, and this message was from Chris. And on this message, he sounded very eerily calm. He told her that they'd almost gotten him last night, and he believed that this would be his last night on Earth. It isn't exactly clear what he was referring to when he said that they had almost gotten him the previous night, but it is assumed that he is talking about the paranormal presences that he kept claiming were attacking him. But unfortunately, that would be the last time that anybody would ever hear from Christopher Case. Christopher was found deceased in his apartment on Thursday, April 18, 1991. His body was discovered inside of his apartment, inside a bathtub which was completely empty. He was fully clothed and in a kneeling position with his head resting against the wall. It almost appeared as if he had just fallen asleep and hadn't woken up. In the apartment, they had found multiple crucifixes all over the place. They had also found multiple books on witchcraft and the occult. Salt was sprinkled all over the bottom of every entrance, windows, and walls, and there was religious music playing out of every single room in the apartment. On top of that, they had also found little notes scribbled by Christopher himself that were written all over the apartment about how to defend yourself from demons. An autopsy was done and showed that Christopher likely passed away due to his heart stopping. Myocarditis was originally listed as the cause of death. This is an inflammation of the heart muscle that can cause your heart to completely fail. This disease is very uncommon and usually only affects a handful of people, and most of the people who are affected by this disease range in age from 20s to 40s. The strange thing about this is the people that are usually affected by this disease suffer from flu-like symptoms, chest pains, extreme fatigue, and difficulty breathing leading up to their death. Christopher Case hadn't shown signs of any of these symptoms leading up to his death, but this was the only possible explanation as to what could have possibly happened to him. There was no sign of forced entry in his apartment, and also no sign of a struggle, but there was also no possible way that anything else could have happened that the police didn't find that would have caused his heart to fail. Is it possible that Christopher Case scared himself to death by overthinking what the witch on his business trip had said? Or was it possible that this woman actually put a hex on him and tormented Christopher Case to death? Like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, Christopher wasn't religious at all, and he had no interest in the paranormal. So why, leading up to his death, was he absolutely obsessed with paranormal and thinking that entities were stalking him? It is also said that Christopher Case's death was from natural causes, but if that's the case, then how did Christopher predict his own death? Is it possible that Christopher Case had some kind of break in his psyche and managed to think himself to death? Many people believe that Christopher Case had a mental break, and that is why he thought that some paranormal entity was attacking him and stalking him. But to me, that doesn't explain why he died of natural causes. Make sure you leave it in the comments down below what you think happened in this case or what you think is going on, because this case absolutely baffles me. Is it possible that the woman was actually a witch? And if she was, that woman obviously has some serious issues if she thinks that she needs to kill every person who turns down her request to be romantically involved. And guys, that brings us to the end of this video. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and don't forget to comment down below what you'd like to see in my future videos, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on that notification bell so that you don't miss any more videos from me. Just once again, I will be posting from now until Halloween, and I already posted 2 videos, so if you haven't checked those out yet, make sure to do so after you're done this one, and also keep a lookout for the rest of the videos coming this week, because Halloween is getting closer. But with that all being said, that is the end of this video, and I will see you guys tomorrow for another Halloween video similar to this one. Bye guys!